Welcome back, everyone, to our third game of the day, and one that should seriously bring the hype. It's TSM and TL going head-to-head.
And I'm really excited for this one in particular because I think it's a big challenge for TL.
Yes.
With the Academy top side. You know, they have Armeo in, they have Jenkins in as well. And they are 2-0 on the weekend, right? But they haven't faced the stiffest competition. So I think this is going to be a really good barometer to kind of just see, hey, can you actually hang with the big dogs? Because TSM has been playing really, really well. Yes, they're coming off of a loss, but still, they are up near that top of the table, trying to catch back up to 100 Thieves.
Right, and a win here against Team Liquid would retie TSM at first, but a win here against TSM then puts Liquid tied with them in the standings.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Either way, somebody's going to be tied at the end of this one. Let's see who it ends up being. Bans are already coming out here with Akali and Gwen banned out by TSM, with Nocturne the first ban from TL.
TSM has been a big fan of the Nocturne. They like a lot of these hard engaged style comps. Nocturne Rumble have been very popular and has really been drawing a lot of bans by some of the teams that did play it quite a bit. Another one, more of a Speaker special, the Volibear, has not been performing well in the LCS, but is still seeing some play, just often not resulting in the wins.
Unlucky. But Volibear's banned away. That means one ban left here for either side. TSM already focusing hard on those powerful 1v9 solo laners. We'll see if they can continue that here. Nope, switching it up a little bit, taking one of those top-tier enchanters off the table, removes the karma.
Yep, absolutely. And Rumble going to be banned out here. Does feel like it raises the priority of the Diana, another AP jungler there that can really be quite strong and enables you to have those AD soul laners that are so highly prized. Lee Sin just feels like kind of the default first pick these days. Not every team is going for it. You can also look towards Varus, Senna, some of these other high priority champs that have been left open.
And I really like to see the Rumble ban against TSM in particular, just because of how good Huni is on it and how easy it is to flex it into top out of the jungle. The first pick of the draft for TSM, though, will be that Xin Zhao. 67% win rate, man. This champion gets work done.
It's absolutely really, really strong these days. Not only does it have that powerful early game, yes, it doesn't scale as well as some champions, but it doesn't have that huge fall off that the old version of Xin used to, because the ultimate kind of gives you this bastion of safety. You can soak up so much damage and then go really just immune to range champions when that ulti is active. So quite strong. Lulu would be an interesting pick here, but I also think something along the lines of their jungle would make sense, but it is going to be the Lulu. Now, the question is just going to be, will it be soul lanes? Will it be down towards Core JJ? And generally, when you see Lulu, you're immediately expecting some sort of a hyper carry to be paired alongside it, right? So the question is, what is that hyper carry going to be? Is it Lulu Kindred? We saw Cloud9 go for that sort of a play. Is it going to be Lulu Jinx, Lulu Cog? You know, where is that carry that you're really going to be buffing up? Because there needs to be a pairing for this champion to really pay off.
And when I see something like a Lulu that's indicative of a hyper carry, I do really like seeing Nautilus as the answer to that, because you immediately just click R on him every single fight and make it so you're guaranteed to have that threat.
Absolutely. If there's one linchpin of a composition where it's like you must have a successful game on the Kog'Maw or on the Jinx or on the whatever, then point and click CC, really, really powerful here. I'm wondering, does PoE have the read that it would be Lulu plus Kindred? It is a bit of a denial pick. It's also something that he's very comfortable on. Seems to be coming back into meta. He loves the control mages, so we'll get a huge comfort pick for him. And Varus would make sense. I mean, it could be Lulu Varus, but lethality Varus is not usually the one champion you want to kind of build up and really power up. Not. Anyone can benefit from the Lulu, but unless it's going to be more of the on-hit style, I wouldn't expect this to be the kind of the real go-to style of champion. Of course, you can be buffing up melee champs too. Things like the Olaf we sometimes see denied when Lulu is available, because that's also a powerful combo.
Yep. And one thing I'm noticing here a lot about the differences in the first half of the draft, some powerful flex options for TL in both Lee Sin and the Lulu. Varus, of course, pretty much just has one place that he's going to go. But over on TSM, the 3 champions they've drafted, we know where those 3 champions are going to go. So the second half of the ban phase will be easier for TL to target exactly what they want to. Whereas TSM will have to continue guessing. They're saying, all right, we're betting the Lulu is not going into the support role, ban Braum instead.
And it kind of shows you just 2 different perspectives on how to draft, right? TSM is just saying, these are powerful. We do not care what you play. We are going to build our composition, right? And TL is more taking the approach of being able to move things around, play more potentially for advantageous matchups. That can be very valuable too, but if you go that route, you then must make good on it. You must win those lanes. You must get the compositional advantages as a result of some of these flex picks.
Okay, Jace and Renekton banned away by the side of Team Liquid. One more ban to go for TSM.
Yeah.
Do they want to continue focusing on that support role? Do they want to remove more defensive, protective options? There's still stuff like a Tahm Kench. There's still a Thresh available to be picked. What will it be?
I think not, because Lulu could still be flex support. So if you overinvest in support bans, then you can kind of get punished. I think Diana makes a lot of sense. It's an AP jungle pairing. You can take that away. Armeo, though, has been great on the Sejuani, so this is something kind of particularly for him that has really been working very, very well. Would be interesting to see if they want to go back to it immediately again here. You're expecting to leave potentially that mid lane pick for last for Jensen. The Olaf was one thing I had highlighted as a strong pairing with the Lulu. It is going to come through here. So now it could actually just be mid lane Lulu alongside the Olaf as kind of this powerful mid jungle duo. You could still see Lulu go down towards that bottom lane, but it is leading me to believe that it's more likely on Jensen. And it would be kind of a departure from the style that he normally plays. So I'm still keeping my mind open for the possibility of that flex pick.
And of course, they will have last pick in the entire draft to decide exactly where they want that to go. TSM, for their 4th pick, will lock Ezreal in as the marksman. So again, this will allow Sword Art to roam around as the Nautilus, try to make plays elsewhere. Ezreal can comfortably sit underneath the turret and farm up from that very, very long range. Final pick of the draft for TSM coming up now.
Huni.
We still need to see Huni's top laner.
And there's been so many bans towards top. Oh, are we going to get the new Mundo? Ah, we are.
Huni,
Okay. Interesting. Right. So Mundo is something I've actually played a fair bit of with the new style. I do think that your early laning is a lot weaker. Generally, his best matchups are actually against people who are incredibly CC reliant. So that's not Lee Sin. So I will say I'm a little bit surprised to actually see him coming out. Traditionally, when you're looking at the best matchup for Mundo, it's things like Shen, Renekton, champions that have one piece of CC that they must really nail because his passive immunes that first CC that does hit him.
Yeah.
And that is why he wins a lot of those matchups. It's actually going to be Seraphine. So this is interesting.
It is going to be a lot of support.
Yeah, Lulu plus Seraphine is very low in damage. I kind of start to feel like maybe Tactical is going to be on hit. Maybe he has to go towards that, especially if you're going up against a Mundo and you basically are just stacking physical damage here, right?
Yeah.
Essentially purely physical damage. Yes, there's Lulu and Seraphine. They're not going to threaten a Mundo who's health stacking. I think you need on hit to really be able to punch through because he is a difficult champion to get through. It looks like it will be Jensen playing the Lee Sin. I do think this suits his style a little bit better, putting Jenkins on the Lulu. He's been a player who's been very, very flexible, so it's more of that priority up towards top. The one thing I will say is that very quickly, Mundo can shrug off these ranged, kind of like lower damage style of champions. Like when you're playing against a Lulu, if you just even get towards a cow, like I don't even know if he feels like he needs that, but even just like a casual null magic mantle and you start building some HP, you're probably chilling because there is MR built into a lot of the standard mythics. From there, you really just want to stack armor to deal with the Lee Sin, the Olaf, the Varus. Mundo will be really, really interesting here. You know, he kind of has more unique trading patterns. You know, the E to be able to knock minions that you actually last hit through the wave, harass people that are both inside the wave, and then harass people that are outside the wave with your Q, with your cleaver, which was the more standard pattern.
Yeah.
You know, the W has kind of the pseudo gray health that you can reactivate to get some of that health back. Can be pretty powerful in the later stages of the game. He's definitely a very different style of champion. I can't say I was expecting him to come out, except in maybe very specific counter matchups. So really interested to see how he does perform here today.
Okay, Huni on the Mundo, Grasp of the Undying with Domination secondary there for the runes. We can't wait to see what he's bringing to the table here on this one, man. The Dr. Mundo, can he go where he pleases? Or will TL have the answer? With Lulu in the top lane, Seraphine in the bottom lane, so much shielding, so much speed, so much healing, so much power. And that, to me, also says so much faith in Armeo on this Olaf.
Yeah.
This guy who's coming in, Santorin's having health problems right now. Armeo's your substitute, and you're putting him on the champion to hard carry the game, to be the one that these two can act as a support battery for. That's a lot of faith.
It absolutely is. I mean, I'm just so curious to see, are they going to do on-hit Varus? That's the biggest question left for me.
Okay.
Because if it's lethality Varus, and you just have this armor-stacked Mundo, it feels really tough. I mean, you can try to poke past the front line towards Power of Evil, who won't have sustain on this Azir, and that would become kind of your primary target. But it does feel tough, man. It feels really tough if you're going to just go fully poke style, because then you're fully invested, really, in Armeo being your only kind of consistent DPS. Like, Lee Sin is not a high DPS champ. Neither is Lethality Varus, so pretty interesting draft here from TL, and excited to see how it pans out.
CoreJJ and Tactical thinking that they were being clever there in that tri-brush, but since it was already warded out, Lost just gets a free Mystic shot onto CoreJJ to begin the bottom lane. Tier start for the Ezreal. I pointed out because he is one of those champions that sometimes starts a Doran's Blade, sometimes starts a tier, depending on what's going on. And remember, Pro View, man, we got Power of Evil versus Jensen. One of the more exciting mid lane matchups to see here. Power of Evil on his trademark Control Mage style, Jensen here on a Playmaker with Lee Sin. So remember that that is your free matchup you can check out here for this game between TSM and Team Liquid, as our junglers are starting on the same side of the map, both pathing towards bot.
Pathing down towards that bottom lane. We'll have to see where they want to really go for their first move. I do think that this Seraphine plus Varus lane is really, really susceptible when you're looking at Xin plus the Nautilus as a pairing who has that really strong engage. There's no exhaust here. They're trying to slam this lane. They're trying to bully it. Nice setup there. You get the root into the Varus Q on the Lost, and he's going to be chugging potions here early and often. CoreJJ is playing Ignite. He wants to punish. They want to threaten kills. And let's be honest, Lost has been kind of the weak link, it feels like, for TSM. He has been the one that has been the most exploitable. When you talk about teams at the top, people talk about 100 Thieves, people talk about TSM, but the question marks for TSM largely are revolving around their bottom lane. You know, is Lost going to be able to compete with the absolutely elite level marksman players in our league? And he has an opportunity here to prove himself.
Jensen's going in, but Spica's ready to answer. Jensen running towards the brush, flashes away from the second part of the W. Remember, the extended range that gives in now on the Audacious Charge would have meant he could catch him very easily. Jensen flashes to stay alive.
Nice little bit of pressure there. First plate going down here at 3:28 into the game.
Wowie, Swordart having a nice dredge line there on a CoreJJ, but they will not be able to take this any further. If they leave the turret, Armeo is there and ready to respond.
Yeah, they need their jungler down bot lane to be able to look for those plays, and this is brutal. They're going to actually get zoned off this wave. It's already a 7 CS advantage here, so if Lost can't actually return to the tower, which he can't, now that CoreJJ and Armeo are both camped out behind here, you just got to give it all up.
And topside, Jenkins in some trouble, looking to run away, but Spica with the third Talon strike gets first blood.
Nicely done, TSM winning out on that top side. Spica, early action, forcing the flash mid, going top, getting the kill and the flash is very, very big, because I was touching on it. Lulu is relatively low damage. You are expecting it to be the supportive style builds, the Shirelias coming through, and if it is that style, you get behind Mundo at all, you just no longer hurt Mundo.
Doesn't matter.
And it can get to this point where you want to push in the wave, he's just going to walk past the wave and attack you, right? And you don't have any real ability to actually fight back and look for these sort of plays. Jenkins, no ward down. Not sure if his earlier one was already used. And honestly, as soon as that cleaver does connect, it's pretty tough to get out. Huni with the flash Q, nicely set up. Spica goes in, finishes it off, and they do get that kill.
Nicely done from TSM, building some strength on the top side of the map to make up for the deficit in the bottom side, where Tactical and CoreJJ, you already mentioned the super early plate, also a two-wave farm advantage this early into the game. They are clearly doing as they please there in the bottom.
Absolutely, they're looking really, really good. The pathing from Armeo was also excellent. The fact that he goes down to the bottom side, because when Spica showed mid, you count the camps, and you realize he skipped a camp. And which one is Xin going to skip? It's going to be the Krugs on the bottom side. So that let Armeo know, I can now go down here, I can counter jungle this, and you have the added benefit of actually zoning them off the wave. So that is something you really do have to appreciate when you see these little details where you're sussing out your opponent's pathing by counting the minions, by figuring these things out. And you can see it's going to be Cleaver Max here for the Mundo, so nothing too atypical. I will be interested to see if he's going to give us any little Huni flair, because I've been experimenting with some different builds. Some more aggressive options can work. I'm expecting a standard tank Mythic, but Titanic Hydra as an option in the side lane, playing this new Mundo is actually really, really powerful because your E, to get that kind of knock through the minions, you have to get the execute. So what it allows you to do is actually very quickly get all these minions low, and then you do the E through the wave, and it's pretty much an instant cleared wave. It can be pretty nice.
Okay, but down here in bottom lane, it's a teleport coming in. Tactical and 4JJ are able to get away thanks to a cancel on the TP, but both junglers are ready to show up now as well. Tactical with the flash stays alive. Armeo's having a flash over the wall himself. TSM has brought in the cavalry, but TL fights them away.
That is a really big cancel for Jenkins. Tactical was for sure dead. If that Mundo does arrive behind you when you're this low, no flash. So
yeah,
critical that he stopped it, and Jenkins actually gets the early Oblivion Orb. So he's trying to maintain some sort of presence in this lane. He's not willing to just go straight rush towards full support. There is the possibility, of course, of this just becoming the Chemtech Putrefier. So it could be that he's still going a support item first, but just wants the one that has a Morello's, the Morello's component, excuse me, the Oblivion Orb in it.
Right.
Because that allows him to have a little bit more presence in lane, still built into a support item. And can be a pretty smart little pivot there, I think, as a result. The problem with that is, though, it severely limits the amount of mana you have, right? Because you're not buying a Lost Chapter, you're not buying a Bandoglass Mirror, so you don't have any sort of regen or flat mana. And when you rush Oblivion Orb, it can be tough to actually stay in lane. If you can't crash the wave, you just run out of mana and you need to reset.
Right, and you already talked about, the standard tank mythic is coming out, which means Bomby Cinder is the piece of that.
Yeah.
Huni already has that for extra wave pressure, extra control, so that just makes it that much harder to get that control first, to try to shove that wave in. So that will be something that Jenkins has to deal with moving forward. We have a pause right now, don't have any information on it. We'll be able to let you all know here in just a moment what we, whenever we figure out what's going on, and hopefully we can get back into the game here very soon. But it was a good response from TL down there, being able to get away from that without really losing anybody else, without having any sorts of issues on the way out, because TSM was really trying to go in there for the punish.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, the other thing to remember is that he's kind of less reliant on healing, like a little bit, than he was before. It is more of kind of a diversity of styles. He has the CC immunity, obviously has kind of the saved up gray health and stuff, so he's not as heal reliant, and I do think it's going to be difficult to actually keep that debuff on him when it really matters, when he's just kind of backing up from the wave and regenning can be pretty difficult. Of course, if there's any sort of an all-in, then it matters, and it can matter for 5v5. So yeah, will be interesting to see how the lane plays out, and if Jenkins can actually maintain any semblance of control there.
Yeah, like, I kind of just find that to be sort of a symptom of how champion design has gotten more in-depth, right? Like, modern-day champions have more depth to them than the ones back in Season 1, which were much more simplistic, right? I love the joke every single time anybody tries to read Samira's passive, which, by the way, is so long I have never read it in its entirety. It is like it is a book report, and I am not interested in the book. But Mundo's old passive was Mundo regenerates.
Mundo heals some health.
Yup, and then his R is Mundo hurts himself, then he heals. Q is Mundo throws a cleaver, then he heals.
Yeah.
Like, back then, the champion themes were pretty simple. It was just like, oh, well,
Nessus. Give him 10% life steal.
Yep, you get life steal. When the dog bonks you, the dog heals. Mundo, yeah, he's just a big purple guy. He heals a lot. These days, there's more depth. There's more complexity.
When the portal to the 5th dimension opens on the 3rd Wednesday of a month and the moon is at its highest point in the sky, Samira gains a new buff.
But then, if she's able to continue this buff and move forward, Samira resets the buff, but only if the moon is able to set right over the beach at the edge of the ocean. If you're playing Samira in a Pacific time zone, if you're playing Samira in the Eastern time zone,
pressing an angry bee emote,
she continues to spin around in a circle, blocking all projectiles. And that's kind of like...
pretty accurate. We're very close.
Mundo's not quite that level, but he is more complex in the previous version of him. And like, one thing I do like is how he has different windows of skill expression now. For instance, like you mentioned the gray health on his new W on that heart zapper. And in order to get the maximum value out of that, you need to be able to get champion damage on it, right? You can't just run in, press the button, haha, I'll heal. You've got to make sure you're still applying that pressure at the right point.
Yeah, and I think that's also trying to push him more towards a solo lane than jungle. Because if that worked on all the monsters and minions, then obviously you could be jungling more effectively there. He's got a little bit more complexity. I like having some simple champions in the game, right? I think it's good to have a variety. Not everything.
I play Skarner. I agree.
Exactly. Not everything needs to be requiring a PhD there to actually make it work. So Mundo has a little bit more added complexity, but it's not anything too crazy, right? The heart zapper changed a little bit. and the passive changed a little bit, and the E is more complex, right? The E before was just auto attack reset and you hit harder now, and now it's like if you kill something happens, otherwise you hit harder now.
It's a cooler ability now, because previously it's just, do you want more damage? Here's some more damage, dude. Like the number on your stats panel is now bigger than it previously was.
And I like the ability that it gives you to actually harass some of these champions. Some of the matchups that were difficult for him before are now easier. Obviously, some of the ones that were easier before are now harder. It's just kind of a changing of power, and it's going to be people trying to learn what ones really work well. Not everyone is relying on him kind of immuning CC to be really strong. Jace is another one that he's actually pretty good into now, because you have the ability to actually poke Jace with your E, knocking those minions into him. And if he steps outside of the minion wave, you're poking him with your Q. Jace is not a champion that actually inherently has a lot of sustain early game.
Right.
And if you don't bully the Mundo early, Mundo just becomes kind of invulnerable. So it is cool to see Huni bringing it out. I actually didn't think we were going to get it brought out for a long time.
I thought it was a bait when he hovered it in the draft. I was just like, when you mentioned it when he hovered it, I was like, oh, Zale, you ought to know it. This is just going to be a bait.
Well, there was like 3 seconds left, so I was like, but what if?
Well, I am glad that we get to see it, because it is always fun to see this freshly redesigned champions and sort of how they function in the current state of the game.
Have you seen Mundo with attack speed? What he looks like when he hits a tower?
I've seen because he bangs his head into the tower, so it's literally just like a solo queue player that's in loser's queue for the day. He's had 7 losses in a row. He just wants to get a win so he can go to bed on a win, banging his face into the keyboard as his bottom lane dies 2v2 in 3 minutes for the 5th time today.
That's Mundo.
Yeah, that's Mundo.
Yeah.
That's where it all comes from.
Exactly.
Man. It's not the crazy science experiments. It's just a little bit of good old-fashioned solo queue.
The average solo queue player. All right, well,
oh my goodness.
Game, not too much has really happened here just yet, so it is overall pretty stable. It's really been about TSM kind of gaining an advantage through jungle, Spica going mid, forcing a flash, Spica going top, getting a kill, and then on the other side, TL creating their advantage through bot lane, drafting for this really powerful 2v2, going for the ignite as well down in that bottom lane for Core JJ. They're trying to play this style where they're bullying Lost, who has been kind of pointed out as potentially a weak link on TSM, and try to zone him off of all this farm, right? Try to push him out of lane, even pulling Armeo down to that bottom lane, counting the minions when Spica shows mid, so the Krugs are up. You go down, you counter jungle, you zone them off, and you try to really extend that advantage. And we're still kind of waiting to find out exactly what tactical is going to go for. It's almost been exclusively just armor pen, kind of poke style Varus in pro, but I do think that on hit could be appropriate here, because yes, sure, Olaf has some true damage on the E, but when Mundo has 6,000 health and 500 armor,
doing 350 true damage doesn't matter.
Exactly. You're going to need someone to deal with him, right? And I just don't see it being Lee Sin and Olaf. I mean, sure, maybe your plan is like, we win by 20 minutes, and then in that case, okay, maybe you just want to poke Varus. But to have any sort of late game insurance, I do think they will need on hit. And I do think when you're going double Enchanter, you gotta have a guy that's worth buffing up and protecting to really do that consistent damage, and I just kind of see that as the Varus.
Yeah, and when I'm looking at this Team Liquid squad, whenever I see double Enchanter, the thing that I automatically think is, okay, you're not playing for splits, you're not playing for sides. Like, double Enchanter means you guys need to group up and allow these Enchanters to properly buff and support everyone else. So that means as this game goes forward, I think there's a good chance we might see something like what you were talking about. Hey, if Dr. Mundo gets a Titanic Hydra, and all of a sudden you've got Mundo just blasting his brain against your tower over and over again, and Shirelia's Lulu is going to come over and stop him with a magic bolt that does 82 damage? I don't think so.
No, you get to that point on some of these tanks that actually do have fairly high base damage, can actually hit towers pretty hard. The E is obviously an auto attack reset. I'm assuming he's also taking Demolish, so you can actually get some significant damage done on these towers. Right. You get to the point where you don't care about what your opponent is doing anymore. You just ignore them. You hit the tower, they hit the minions, and it becomes, can they wave clear before you can actually just smack down that turret? So will be interesting. But of course, until much later in the game, Mundo's still definitely going to be threatened by that Olaf quite a lot.
Right. That's what I want to see. What can Armeo get done here on the Olaf? We saw in that big bottom lane fight right before the pause, he had to flash over the wall because he gets into a fight with Spica in the river. And yes, Armeo's level 6, Spica's only level 5. Olaf farms faster than Xin Zhao. That's just the nature of the game. But when Xin has his
Doesn't have his shieldy dudes. Where are the shieldy dudes at?
Yeah, where's that at? But we got the mid laner rotating down, helping him. It forces him back immediately. And at least it's not as bad as something like a Nocturne, right? Where you have a super long cooldown on that first ulti, and it feels awful if it doesn't get you the kill.
Yeah.
But we're still going to need to see this Olaf find leads, find kills, find advantages, so that he can go into those team fights from a position of strength.
Absolutely. And will he play towards the Lulu? You know, Mundo maybe isn't the ideal target to really attack, but if you want to be going for Herald, if you want to be pairing up with the Lulu, you're going to have to play through that lane, help Lulu push it out, pressure the Mundo to then be able to invade the jungle, put the Xin behind, take away things like the Herald, and try to really increase the pace of the game, stack up that early gold. So that's going to be a big question of mine as well. You know, do you just play towards your bottom lane and say, all right, Lulu, you just join later? Like, good luck.
Good luck, Lulu. Try not to die, I guess. Like,
yeah, and that's fine. You know, if the Varus gets enough ahead, maybe it's irrelevant that your Lulu's behind. So you kind of have the two school of thoughts. Like, do you want to go towards this lane that can really empower you, or do you want to just go towards the person who's going to carry you later?
Yeah, and this game, man, I can't wait until we can get back into it, because I really do want to see what the follow-up from that last big fight down there in bottom lane is, right? Like, we've still got ourselves a close game. We've still got the advantage for Team Liquid there in the bottom. So
I hear sounds.
We're able to avoid the punishment. Here we go. We're back. It's only 7 minutes in. It's still a slight gold lead for the side of TL, and still the only kill on the board belongs to the side of TSM. Now, let's see if they can find a whole lot else here. Tactical goes for the shot with the piercing arrow, but he won't get it. Armeo clearing out some vision while Spica clears out his Krugs. Remember that first Drake is still live. Both junglers here on this bottom half of the map. Spica still only level 5.
Ooh, they want this.
Armeo's clearing out the control ward. They know where he is. Power of Evil shuffling Jensen back, but not within the range of the turret. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Tactical is not in a good spot.
I mean, they knew that Spica was down there.
Yeah.
They saw him, and they just played really disrespectfully. Like, look at this ward. There's a ward that's right. Okay, well, now we can't see it, but it's right under the Nautilus's big fat head if he moves, I swear. See, there it is. I told you. And he walked past that ward, and it's like the slowly walk at you and just die gank, I guess.
He's on his way. Be prepared. He's still on his way. He's coming. Okay, he's here. Well, darn. I guess
who could have expected this? There was no way to see it coming.
Good interrupt on the back there from Core JJ, at least making it a little bit harder for Lost to go back and feel like he's in a good spot here in the lane. Spica is now level 6, picks up his own red buff. Armeo is left to his own devices here in the bottom side river. Very easy for Olaf to solo down Drakes. And that's exactly what he'll do here. So first Drake of the game over to Team Liquid. No contest on that one. And with TSM grabbing their second kill, they have tied the gold up.
It's interesting because maybe TL has the read that, oh, they're not going to try this. They know that Armeo's down here too. But Olaf, as you had highlighted before we actually went to that pause,
he's in the pit.
Olaf had, well, and also he had no flash and no ulti, right? So, maybe actually didn't get caught quite by that ward. So poor placement on the ward, perhaps. Did he not get seen going into that brush? Either way, they still knew that the Xin was around, and they're playing fairly far up with no flash. Their jungle wasn't covering them. So good punish by TSM. I think that TL could have played better around it to avoid it. But I mean, look at the pressure that they have. Despite that death, this is 3 plates down. And it's, you know, moving towards that 4th one. We're just 9 minutes into the game. So Tactical is definitely getting paid. That one was also solo gold on it. Lost is just kind of doing his best to stay relevant, and without the Nautilus down here, I think he's worried potentially about the wraparound, so he is playing it very, very far back. Jensen is here, and he may be caught.
Oh boy, Jensen and Core JJ roaming around, but they cannot get lost in time. He is able to make his way over to the tier 2, but yeah, that tier 1, man, it is having a really bad time down here. We are 9.5 minutes into the game, and the 4th plate falls.
That is just brutal. They're just zoning him off. This is now 2 moves. First one was from Armeo, second one from Jensen, where Lost has to just give up waves. He's down 20 CS. They've lost 4 plates. And also, getting turret access is actually really big for Seraphine in this case, because Core JJ is playing Spell Thieves. So every auto on that tower is getting you paid as well, right? You're maximizing your gold income down here in this bottom side. They're going to be in a really nice position as a result. It is, in fact, lethality, so it will not be on hit. So they have got to play really, I think, a fast-paced game.
Yep.
I just don't think you have a shot of winning this late against Azir and Ezreal and Mundo, who all are going to be scaling really, really well. when your main source of damage is a little bit of poke and then the Olaf plus Lee Sin. So pressure on TL to snowball this game. They are doing great in the bottom side, but not really dominating as far as the top half of the map because Spica had a couple good early ganks.
Yep, Spica getting involved, making things happen. The owner of both of the kills so far here in this game. Lost still just trying to farm whatever he can, defend whatever he can, survive however he can underneath this tier 1 turret. Spica is here. Armeo and CoreJJ may look to make a play. The turret losing a lot of HP. Oh, Seraphine ulti over the wall. Chains of Corruption come out, but Sword Art with the flash gets away in time.
They get the flash, they get the cleanse. Nice little look over the wall. I really like that from TL, a creative angle of attack. This tower, I mean, it's going to go down. It's just a question of how quickly is it going to go down. It won't be this wave. They're not willing to commit to it as Armeo is backing off, so Tactical doesn't want to give up another death here. It's always interesting, you know, it feels weird to give up the tower, but almost I think it may have been the smarter play in that situation. Just let it die to the minions. If you think it's already going down, so the local gold is missed out on, the plate gold is missed out on.
Because there's no way you save it for a long period of time.
It's at like 2% health, right? It's a couple autos and it's dead. So unless you think you can actually defend it for a significant amount of time, sometimes it's better to just allow your tower to die to a minion wave while no one else is around and minimize the gold that you're giving your opponents.
Well, Jensen will farm up this wave, crashing into his tier 1 turret right now. Team Liquid trying to maintain control over neutral territory here as CoreJJ sweeps out some wards, places down some of his own. Spica has found his way into the top lane. And here's one thing, one of the counterpoints to letting the turret fall. First turret bonus is now still available and will go the way of TSM. As soon as this charge comes in, there it is, first turret bonus. That's theirs.
Very nicely done. Going to be able to cash out for that Mundo. Obviously, there's some farm here for Jenkins to try to catch up. I'll be interested to see if he actually tries to freeze this. I do think he should just try to freeze that up. Tactical going to be able to get the solo gold on that turret going down. Really nice for him. CoreJJ intelligently backing away. You don't need that gold as that support Seraphine. You need to be playing from ahead with this Varus. They know there's going to be a lot of armor eventually stacked up. Mundo already has the plated steel caps, the Frostfire Gauntlet, and grabbing the Kindle Gem here. So it'll be interesting to see where he does go.
Yep.
You know, if you are worried about poke, you can just go Warmogs and just tank every single arrow and never care ever.
Anymore forever. Yeah, pretty much. Gore Drinkers also done for Armeo and Jensen, so a lot of drain tank power on the side of Team Liquid. And when you consider those two items, along with the Lulu, along with the Seraphine, I want to see some grievous wounds. I want to see some healing reduction on the side of TSM to answer that properly.
Absolutely. And the question will be who will grab it. You know, we could see the Executioners for Lost, but I think he really wants to rush towards his two items. He does have Divine Sunder at a pretty reasonable timing here, so has that stacking up the tier. He's definitely behind, but it's kind of just bits and pieces that he's behind by because he started on tier, so he's down D-Blade, you know, boots, and a longsword. It's not the end of the world for now.
Right. And
he's just really trying to prioritize the item spike, so I don't expect him to actually go back for any sort of Executioners just yet, and that makes me wonder, you know, is anyone going to grab it? I think that Huni could look towards even just a Bramble or something like that, or maybe even grab an Oblivion Orb here for Power of Evil, because I agree, you're going to want it.
And Moonstone Renewer now completed for Lulu, an item that at one point dominated the meta to the point where it became a massive meme because it was so turbo broken. Then after the nerfs, it just fell off the edge of the world.
Yeah, so my guess is that CoreJJ will go Shurelius, and they'll just say, okay, we'll have one of each, right?
Okay.
You don't need both, perhaps, is kind of the thought process here. So it was just Oblivion Orb into the completed Mythic, which I like because, again, you're going to want this item eventually anyway. Yeah. You go for that Chemtech Putrefier. You give anyone you're buffing up with those shields the ability to debuff for healing. So it's really, really effective. It's one of the most underrated support items. You're going to need it against Mundo. Xin has great healing here too. So it's going to be highly effective.
Tactical just continuing to spam these piercing arrows, force this wave as fast as possible, make sure they maintain priority. And as you can see, Huni wanted to steal away the red buff, but unfortunately for him, Armeo was there in time to respond, so he will have to leave instead. Nothing to really fight for on Summoner's Rift right now, as the dragon is not around, but Jensen going after Power of Evil here, who summons up the Sun Disc, throws out the soldiers, getting both of those cooldowns for nothing. Pretty good there for Jensen.
Really good. Yeah, a good bit of pressure. You could see that Power of Evil, knowing their tower was down, was pretty nervous about the potential of Jensen landing a full combo there.
Yeah.
So early ult, early Sun Disc, I think you have to play it respectfully, because if you actually do get hit by that full combo, you may just die and then not be able to react late.
Yep.
As it takes some time for that Sun Disc to actually activate. It takes some time to really be able to battle back there. And he's kind of put in this awkward spot because he has to play side lane with no tower against a Lee Sin, since his Ezreal is the one moving towards mid.
Okay, with the Rift Herald started up, let's see if they're willing to fight for it. TSM's already got this one taken care of, though, so they'll pick up the eye, march their way out. Spica is now even level with Armeo here in the jungle. Still about 3 camps behind, but close enough that those levels aren't different just yet. As TSM, with that second Herald in their inventory, remember, the first one was imperative for them in getting that first turret bonus, taking out that tier 1 there in the top lane. We'll see where they want to use the second.
And I'm really interested if they're actually going to challenge at this next Dragon, because it's been the first 2 over to TL, uncontested. TSM is actually slightly ahead as far as the gold is concerned. And Mountain Soul, I think, would be pretty valuable here. Being able to have that, always a really nice one, especially if you could actually take it away from TL. Champions like Mundo and Nautilus are going to value that Mountain Soul so much. Even just the flat armor and MR, that you're going to be stacking a tremendous amount of armor here against this TL squad. That would be really nice. And because TL is already pretty low on damage, having that buffer is going to make it even tougher for them to ever actually take someone down.
I like the little game of chicken that we're playing down here, as neither side wants to step forward a little bit too far. They don't know how many dudes might be waiting. There's a lot of dudes down here for TSM. They'll go ahead and get this wave shoved up. And considering how early they lost their own turret here in the bottom lane, there's almost no damage done to the enemy turret here instead, as Tactical and Core JJ just had control over the lane the entire laning phase.
And I think that was really smart, honestly, for TSM. Not only did they wait for Sword Art, but they wait for Spica, because if someone is in that tri-brush and you just kind of face check early as the Nautilus, you're probably going to be in trouble. They know that Power of Evil is going to need support in this side lane, because your bottom lane got crushed, and then you kind of threw the Azir under the bus by having him be the one in this long lane without a tower, so he's going to need that support to get waves reset when he's pushing up there. We can see Mundo with the push. Jenkins has done a pretty good job of actually keeping up in farm, though, so it's not the end of the world. And it does look like it will be Warmog's second here with the Giant's Belt, the Kindle Gem. Should be that Crystalline Bracer. I always forget, I think that's what it's called. Straight into that Warmogs, and then you just shrug off all poke. And I think it makes sense when it's not just laning against an AP range champion here, but it's also the Varus, which is this long range poke, so you can step forward, tank it up, and make sure that you're just not at any sort of threat unless they hard commit to 100-0 you, which is just really, really hard as TL's comp.
Yeah, and you can see Huni was the richest person in the game when the gold popped up on the side of the screen, but the one right behind him was Jensen here on this Lee Sin. And with Jensen posturing aggressively in the side lanes, threatening to dive onto Power of Evil, forcing him to use the Sun Disc and the ulti like you already mentioned earlier, I want to see big hero plays out of Jensen once they get into fights, right? Because we're talking about lethality Varus. We're talking about how that's not going to scale later on. So that means if you're trying to play a fast game, I need to see Jensen making the kind of plays that'll facilitate those fights.
Yep, absolutely. The pressure is on TL big time. If they can grab this third dragon, they're still working quickly towards that soul win condition, and they look like they want to fight now.
Armeo's running in. Finds a little bit of damage onto Spica, but Jensen now not in a great spot. Sword Art's going in. He found the ulti on the Team Liquid mid laner. Wind becomes lightning, and Spica goes in. Seraphine ulti buys a little bit more time. True Shot Barrage won't get a lot. Huni's down very low on HP, but he's still got the ulti ready to rock.
I think he has Warmogs, otherwise he probably would have popped the ulti. So I think he's waiting to get out of combat here, and look at his health.
Look at his health. Holy cow, man, it just don't matter. Dr. Mundo is in the building. TSM can just zone them all away. The Dragon's just being soloed down. Spica doesn't need any help with that. A little bit more coming out, and they've got it. TSM stops the Dragon Step.
I mean, this is great. Huni's got to be careful he doesn't go too far forward here, though.
Okay, he's got the ulti there. That time it actually came out. So he'll do a little bit of extra healing there at the back end of things. But hey, for TSM, you call that one a win. No kills on either side, but TL do not get that third Drake.
Absolutely. I mean, they have such good scaling. So many of their champions really are going to be monsters in the late game here. TL now are going to have to figure something out because they don't have the potential of a really fast soul here. So now they're going to have to try to force a fight elsewhere, try to be able to really get something out of this combo. I mean, they do have a super strong Olaf right now. You have the ability to send the Olaf in, Seraphine ult through multiple members, extending the range, trying to really send that forward in the back line. If you can pull that off, get Olaf into the back line, land some sort of Varus Q over the top, you could just eliminate the Azir and run over a fight. But the longer this game goes with this really slow pace, the better it is for TSM, because these items are going to be starting to come through. We can see that the second item is being built up for PoE. Mundo already has 2. Lost just finished his second. So TSM is really coming online.
And for TL, let's see how that tempo can be increased here. Grouping up together, pushing down the mid lane. Tier 1 turret's taking a lot of damage, should take enough to kill it off. Nicely done. That will give them a 2-1 lead here in terms of those turrets, trying to build up that gold, trying to maintain a position of strength, because the gold is so close right now that if Team Liquid wants to end this game quickly, they're not on pace for it.
Yep. And it is the Shurelya's for CarJJ, kind of what I expected when I saw Moonstone top, so they don't want to go double Shurelya's. They're just doing one of each. The Putrefier coming through, as you can see, for the Lulu, and they're looking to wrap around here.
Oh boy, here we go. Sword Art with the ulti. Huni going in now. Armeo on the front line, pops the Ragnarok, but can't go forward any further. Sundisk is summoned up, and the fight's over.
And at the end of the day, it's a trade of flashes between Sword Art and Tactical, and you'll take that every time as TSM. You know, there's no Tom Kench or anything behind Tactical, so sure, he is going to have the support of those enchanters as well. They're not exclusively for Olaf, but if you have these people piling in on top of you, you're going to be in so much trouble. And when you're looking over, you're seeing some playmaking ability here. You're seeing the Azir with Flash. You scoop in that Varus. He's not poking down anybody.
No, sir. Okay, Putrefier is completed, so that's
big.
going to be very important, allowing them to cut down on some of the healing from Mundo, from Xin, from Ezreal even with a Divine Sunderer.
And this is where Huni's going to have to really know his limits on the champion, and having a new rework, it can be tough to do.
Yes.
Because you can't hard commit depending purely on the healing. You've got to bounce back in and out of these fights. Give yourself enough time to heal back up.
Like a butterfly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you go forward, you're getting relatively low, you got to back it up so the healing debuffs fall, and you actually have the ability of healing that damage back up.
Okay, Team Liquid, what is the play going to be here? Honestly, 2 kills in 22 minutes, it's a slow one.
Yes,
and
sir.
in the nature of these compositions, you have to feel like that favors TSM just a little bit too much for Liquid to be comfortable with it.
That's how I feel. I mean, Seraphine is really good late game, so is Lulu, but I'm just not sure the champions you're buffing up are going to have enough oomph in the late game to really get it done.
Versus like a Azir and Ezreal.
Yeah, and Armeo is also going this kind of more defensive style of build. He has the Cowl here second, which again, there's a lot of magic damage from Power of Evil. You can respect it. They're going in for Jensen though.
Okay, they already got him yeeted back there, but Sword Art not finding the dredge line onto the right target. Jensen looking to turn it around here with a 1v2. Power of Evil loses a good amount of health. Jenkins is ready to join up. Sword Art's the first to die. You don't gank Team Liquid. Team Liquid ganks you. Jensen looking for a bit more. Power of Evil still on the run. Nice Seraphine ulti coming in. Core JJ sets Jensen up for another one.
And this could be a TL Baron. I mean, TSM are not the ones that needed to go for this sort of play. TL had to get something done, and TSM wrapped it up with a pretty bow and gave it to him.
I said I wanted to see playmaking from Jensen, and there it is. He turns it around, he makes it happen. TSM trying to stop him here with the Baron, with Jensen going in yet again, looking to find something else. The wild growth keeping him strong, keeping him tanky. They chase Huni, lost, and Spica away. Dr. Mundo is tanky, but he's not tanky enough. And that is TL getting another win, but they are stopped from the Baron.
They stopped the Baron. That is the critical thing. It costs you the Mundo, but it buys time for Azir, for Xin Zhao to respawn here, for everyone to get back up and get out there on the map. Nashor's now completed here as well for the Azir, so I think a pretty big misstep on that top side for TSM, trying to force that play. And honestly, even within the context of going for the play, they just executed poorly on it. I mean, Power of Evil scooped Jensen away, but now they're finding Armeo.
We aren't done yet. Ragnarok gets him away. TSM with control over the zone. Oh, TL, what are you doing? Sword Art's gonna keep it going even further. Tactical is done. Team Liquid crumbles to pieces.
Jensen's still on that top side. TSM, CTL trying to come over towards this dragon, and they catch him and they punish him there. Power of Evil over the wall. Armeo felt safe with the Lulu behind him, with the ability to Ragnarok out of CC. He's your best guy to check these brushes, but it still was not enough. TSM just swayed the earlier Baron attempt from TL here, and now they're going to grab it for themselves. Team Liquid will try to take the Dragon as an answer and push it to Soul Point. Likely will be theirs, but now they actually spotted at pretty high health, and you can see Azira's moving down, so I think TSM actually aren't going to give it up.
They don't have their jungler here either. If Speaking gets over into the pit, he can just steal that one away incredibly simply. Dragon's still at 4K. This goes to TSM.
Thanks for the leash.
That's pretty much it, man. Don't forget to put the little less than 3 in the alt chat next to it, as there it is. Dragon secured by Spica and TSM. Jensen's on the front line, looking for a chance to do something, but there's nothing you can do. Not when they all have the Baron, not when they're all feeling perfectly fine.
Absolutely. It is going to get really, really tough. Third item through for Mundo. Randuids makes so much sense here against this physical damage comp. The armor stack, really smart here. The Mythic plus the Warmogs is more than enough to deal with any magic damage ever in a side lane. The Warmogs is also canceling out so much of the poke. So here it is one more time. Armeo checking forward here. He does have Lulu with him. He does have the ultimate, but Power of Evil straight over the wall. They don't have vision on it. Not only does Armeo get caught out there, it is Jenkins going down as well. Tactical and Core JJ were not there when it started, and the fight was already lost before Jensen would have even had a chance to TP here. So it's going to be really, really tough now for TL. Jensen does complete the GA. He's strong. I mean, he's 3-0, but it's just a 3-0 Lee Sin at this point of the game is not really the biggest deal. And, you know, you're looking down to these marksmen. It was this monumental lead for Tactical early in the game. Lost is just as strong or stronger at this point.
I feel like we've got to have just a huge Seraphine ult or a huge Lee Sin kick onto a value target. It's got to be Lost or it's got to be Power of Evil if Team Liquid want to win one of these fights. Sword Art's finding himself slowed down. With Ragnarok also used, the pursuit is true and Sword Art will fall. Jensen goes on a rampage. 4 for 4 kills on Team Liquid for the mid laner.
Yeah, good kill there. They will be able to take that one down. They did lose their tier 2 mid, I believe, and we can see them pinging towards that tower, so they want to continue forward. Armeo without his cooldowns means the kind of core piece here of that TL squad is missing. They have a lot of tower damage. They are going to back it up, though. They see Jensen TPing in behind. They're going to collapse on him.
Team Liquid's ready to go. Jensen looking to make the play. They got Spica there in the front line. Jensen taking a lot of damage. He goes in the right direction. Now with Armeo pushing forward, looking to find even more here, but he's going to be bursted down. He can't stay alive. Power of Evil with another nice shuffle. Shut down. Credit on Jensen. Goes over to Spica, and TSM will take that fight.
And they're going to keep pushing. They have the Baron. Mundo's going to regen to full. He's got the Warmogs. Remember, as long as he doesn't get hit here, that regen is going to be kicking in any second. And there it goes, flying straight back up to full. They want to end the game here. Tactical's your only damage, and he's a poke champ. You can't possibly hold on.
Power of Evil teleporting right back in to make this one end quick. Hooney's polymorph, but that don't matter. He's so tanky, it doesn't mean a thing. TSM, eyes on the Nexus, 28 minutes into the game. Team Liquid can't do it. TSM take the win.
Nicely played by TSM, controlling the pace of the game, minimizing loss on the bottom side. They got behind down in that bottom lane, but they did such a good job of actually protecting Lost, moving him to the mid lane, guaranteeing he would get that farm, and also covering Power of Evil, who had to take that long lane with no tier 1. There was constantly Sword Art behind him, covering him so he couldn't actually be punished. And TSM really just slowed down the pace of the game to a point where they were outscaling. They had the better comp, they had the better late game, they played it calm, they played it cool, and when they found their moment, that big pick on Armeo as well as Jenkins, that just felt like GG right there, sealed the game.
Power of Evil swooping in there at the right time to make sure they catch both of them. And yes, TSM had the blunder earlier in top lane where they tried to make a move on Jensen. Jensen outplays, turns it around. Things are looking great for TL, but even after that blunder, TSM responded appropriately, and you said it during the cast, during that moment itself, yeah, you have to lose Mundo here. That sucks, but that's the cost of the blunder in top lane, but they stopped the Baron, and that's what mattered.
Absolutely. I think the builds were smart as well. I think the Warmogs just made so much sense against this low, consistent damage poke style team. We saw multiple situations where Hooney is moving in there, absorbing huge amounts of damage, and then just Warmogs right back up to full. Even in one of the earlier fights by the Dragon, right after he completed it, he gets poked down to 10%, doesn't even need to use the ult, and then has it later for when it was actually a hard engage, and he needed to back up, and he needed that health to be able to survive. So, you know, TSM playing this really well. I've got to be critical of the TL draft. I absolutely hated it. I just don't think that you can rely on a poke Varus as your highest consistent damage, right? You know, they weren't proactive enough. You can, excuse me, I'm talking about TL. Did I say TSM? I kind of
We're good.
myself through a loop. But the TL style comp, when you're playing that style, it's just so low damage with double enchanter. You need a true carry. I don't think Poke Varus is it, and they weren't aggressive enough with what they had actually drafted to put the Olaf in a position where he could function as that either, right? Like you're playing a no-kill game where Olaf is going Spirit Visage second here. Like, where is your damage? There's just nothing, right? They just couldn't push through when you got to the later stages of the game, and the game would have just gotten worse and worse and worse for them, it feels like, based on the compositions. So to me, if you were going to go Varus, you had to go on hit, and it probably would have made more sense to go like Cog or Jinx or something like that.
A traditional hyper carry, as opposed to Varus.
Exactly, even Trist, like anything like that could truly threaten the opposing team's scaling with the support that you have, because just no one could really make use of it. Like, we didn't see a single fight where someone on TL was really just fully buffed up and ran over.
No, it never got to that point. And on the other side, because we're talking about, you know, our Mayo on the Olaf not being able to be set up for success with those two enchanters, our player of the game here for TSM was Spica, who on the Xinjiao was able to constantly provide threat in the right places.
Great.
Yes, he was always like about a half level behind the Olaf, but that's just the nature of those two champions' clear speed. And Spica found a lot of good moments. He protected the bottom lane properly and made sure that TSM was able to manage those weak spots and play to their strengths.
Absolutely. I mean, even just the early pathing, forces flash mid, gets a kill top, played it really well. And after the break, Power of Evil will be joining the State Farm analyst desk and breaking down his win. We'll catch you there.
Hell yeah.
Decorative towel.
There was a mess. I wiped up a mess.
Yeah, you
Where is the box? Never mind, I found it!
When game day is a go, there's a Bud Light there.
welcome back to the State Farm Analyst Desk after that TSM victory. Up, you eat more like Pog, baby. Let's go. I'm just reading this on the wall. As you can see, we have Power of Evil here to join us after post-game 2-1 on the week. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. The game was really stressful in the end, but it worked out for us, so I'm happy.
So we definitely have to get your thoughts on draft because we got thrown for a little bit of a loop. The new Mundo coming out, Seraphine on the other side. So walk us through this.
Well, so the Seraphine completely got us off guard. We didn't expect that at all. But we felt that they really lacked damage, especially when we already had picked the Mundo before. So they have the Poke Varus, which is not like the best carry to speed up. And they have the Lee Sin mid. They don't have like a hyper carry top either. So they just overall lack damage, and I think with our little mistake in the top side, they nearly actually got the victory. But I would say throughout the most of the game, we were in the lead and we were in the control, and I felt like we were not really scared of losing that game because we have the scaling on our side, and I felt like our early mid game worked out really good with getting the Herald too, so we were not really afraid.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I did notice that you guys made it a really good point to focus topside almost immediately. Was that as soon as you saw this draft, were you like, oh my gosh, they lack so much damage if they don't go on hit Varus? Like, we're gonna make sure we get the Mundo into a good position?
Yeah, so we got the Herald and we spoke about where we want to drop it. Do we want to drop it mid lane for the Azio or top lane for the Mundo? We ended up saying, okay, I'm just gonna get the push mid lane. We're gonna drop it together top lane, and we got 5 blades for the Mundo. He got insanely strong and insanely tanky, especially against their team comp. It's like really hard for them to lock him down with the like immunity to the CC. Yeah. So Mundo was just a beast.
My question is more holistic, like terms of team playstyle. I know we've been talking about that a little bit more on the desk, but like I've heard like countless people come out and say that mage items suck. You've definitely been one of them. But especially in the past few weeks, but in both games that we've seen, it's been Azir and Ezreal consistently. Like, have you felt like that's been hard? Because it seems like you guys are playing against the waters or the river, I guess, against the tide, playing this style. I
would like we tried multiple styles. We tried like the Viego mid lane and the LeBlanc. We tried the Lucian as well. I think that on blue side generally, like you need to try. Like red side is normally known for having these good counter picks in the mid and top lane, and blue side is normally known for having the stronger bot lane / getting the first pick or P pick. So when you're on blue side as mid top, you just try to get like a safe pick. And generally, like if you look at the other regions, mages are still like picked a lot in these blind pick situations. Yeah. The other situation that you can do is like multiple flex picks, like having not only like Viego, but having like Viego, Nocturne set, having like a triple flag, so you can like then choose, okay, what is the easiest matchup for you to play? Because normally red side should get the advantage on the solo lanes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As we dive into the game, though, we're going to make you sweat a little bit right at the top. We're starting on the top side with the play.
We're reliving it.
Oh, no. I actually think this is a really good play from us, and there's a good chance we kill him here. We took the risk. I think Oswaldo took the risk. I already spoke with him about it afterwards. Like, he could have either just out-attacked him or ulted him and not start with the Q first, because if we lock him down right there after the ultimate, it will be like a CC chain, right? Out-attack, ultimate, Q. In the meantime, the Azir is hitting him permanently, and there's a good chance we kill him before the Lulu comes in. And worst case, if the Lulu comes in, saves him, we are not in threat of dying. But since we did this, like, we missed our opportunity with the spells, and then he did a really good kick of kicking Sword into me, right behind me, gets the Q on me, like, good job to him. They got the turnaround on us, and it got really scary for a second.
My question is, like, when teams find themselves in this position where, like, you do need to take a step back and kind of rethink the next play, what are comms like on TSM? Because we've seen teams like CLG, when they get put in this position, but they still have a goal lead, they kind of fall like dominoes and can't kind of struggle getting to the next point. How is it for you guys?
Well, so for us, it was obviously the first thought was, what ults did they use, right? Lee Sin used ult, Seraphine used ult flash. I'm trying to give as much information as possible so my Freeman can try to stop the Baron. They did a really good job at stalling the Baron, even so Mundo died. I think that was really worth it for us. And then I think Ming did a good job of saying, let's run to the Dragon. There's a good chance one of them will face trigger us because some of us are still dead, and I'm coming out of base just now. Amao face tricks us. I'm not sure if he had ultimate. I think he was still down from the play before. So I could swoop in, kill the Lulu and him, and that instantly snowballed for us throughout the game. We got 2 kills into the Baron. which was the idea beforehand as well. That was our play before. This time it actually worked out. And then after the Baron, they don't really have too much to do. They got, I think they did the best they could, which is try to like 4-man ball onto like one side that killed Swordart, but you could see that even with the pick, it's so hard for them to play. I think at this point they're just too outscaled, and we have too many threats. We have the Azrael, we have the Azir. Even the Xin Zhao does a good amount of damage, and our Mundo, as you said, is like unkillable, doing his percentage damage.
Quick on the Azir, I know Dash had a little bit of a conspiracy theory going on. Did you and 100 Thieves scrim together at all?
Actually, yeah, we scrimmed a little bit, and he played Azir, and I was like, oh, damn, the champ is actually not bad in certain matchups.
Right
and I was like, okay.
Dash off camera is validated.
Amazing.
Solid performance
Dash
from
got us.
TSM. Yeah, Dash, really good on you calling that one out there. So
Don't give him
TSM's
credit.
been, okay, well, yeah, I guess I'm just on the outskirts. I want to learn more about how this power of friendship is going to go into next week for TSM. You have a matchup actually at the end of the week going against C9, which is historically a really hype matchup, TSM versus C9, but there are a lot of questions around that roster right now. So I want to know your thoughts on them as opponents.
Yeah, C9 is just struggling a little bit lately. I felt like even when I listened to Vulcan's interview, it felt kind of sad, honestly. Like, they won, but it felt like it wasn't like a deserved victory from them. They had like this comeback fight at the Baron where they just killed all of them and won the game.
Guardians, yeah,
and I think it's really hard to tell what the problem is in C9. I think it's nearly impossible to tell from the outside. I think only the people inside know what it is, if it's like the swap, if it's from that happening, if it's synergy issues. Maybe they didn't really figure out right now, like, what is their style right now in the Summer Split, and because you can play a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, since we've talked about your team so much in terms of playstyles, Raz already hit on, how important do you think it is right now in a meta that is so wide open to have a really specific playstyle?
I think it is, especially for teams that have the higher score, I think they can experiment a little bit more, because I think it's important to have as many styles as possible heading into playoffs, so you have like the opportunities to like pull out some stuff out of your pockets and But I think it's generally, from the experience from all my years, it's still really good to have one style that you're really good at, that you're like maybe excellent on, that you can always pull out, and no matter what, go back to comfort when you feel like you need to get that win, or like maybe you smash game one and you need to. You go back to comfort. I think that's really important to have as well.
Well, PoE, it's been a pleasure for us to watch TSM developing your style throughout the year. Thank you so much for joining us on the desk after your match. Woo, Lottie, what a day we have had. We are going to kick it to a break, but on the other side, Golden Guardians will be taking on the newest faces of FlyQuest. See you there, friends.